Scale, exit, repeat. How to catch the next tech wave. That's what we're talking about today, because this is a topic that I absolutely love. It's been something that has been a passion of mine for 30 years now as a serial tech entrepreneur. And it's something that I really believe in. And there's a formula that you can use to catch a tech wave and then learn how to ride that wave. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to catch the wave and ride the wave. And it's actually the topic that the article that I'm writing right now for Entrepreneur Magazine. It'll come out in about a month or two with the same title. It is actually the same title of the next book that I am working on, How to Catch the Next Tech Wave from the Internet, Disruptions from the Internet to AI. Michelle, you've been living in high-tech world for so many years, and you've noticed so much change since when you first started your career.
I mean, it's just amazing. It truly is. But I'll say the biggest changes, I think most of us would agree, have actually happened in the last, gosh, it feels like last couple of months, but probably in the last year. But so when I think about this subject for you, Colin, I know, like, I don't know if you remember this, but when I first started working for you, we were working on some award nominations, and I actually wrote a nomination for you. And it was about how you, particularly you, are very good at like identifying these waves and developing business plans, business models around them. And one thing that I've admired about you is that you don't try to reinvent it. You really just try to leverage it. So this leads me to the first question. I'm going to just jump right in here. Is is this an art or a science? Like, how do I know everyone's crazy about AI now, but I think the opportunity is not just like trying to get into, let's just say, the du jour fad, but actually how do you leverage, like, and know, engage when a technology is kind of right for you to develop and, let's say, be additive and build a business model around it. So is it art or science? Like, kind of what are you personally looking for? Like, what are the signals, Colin?
Sorry, I do think instinct comes into play, but I would argue that that there is a science behind it, that there is a formula that you can start to track. The author, Geoffrey, who wrote Crossing the Chasm and Inside the Tornado, he actually did a really good job of breaking this down, the technology adoption curve. All right. So if you think about the technology adoption curve, you'll start with the innovators at the very, very beginning. These are the people who jump onto new technologies and absolutely love the technology. And they love it for the technology's sake. Let me say that. They don't necessarily love it for how it can actually make your life better. And there is a distinction here. And then you've got the early majority who are really influenced by those innovators at the after the technology becomes relevant. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, or not necessarily relevant, but changes human behavior, and it either saves time or saves money. And then in the technology curve, you've got the late majorities, and then you got of individuals, and then you've got the laggards. And pretty much every technical cycle goes through this process of that kind of technology adoption. And I'll start by going back and just sharing a little bit of my story. On the show, what we do is we like to talk about stories. And just hold on a second. I'm just loading something up here. The technology adoption curve. If you type in Google the technology adoption curve, you can see that there's actually innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. So, but it is those innovators, and they represent about 2.5% of the population. So a very small percentage of the population are really there to grab on very, very quickly. And then the early adopters, about 13.5%, the early majority, 34%, late majority, 34%, and laggards, 16%. And what Geoffrey Moore talks about in Crossing the Chasm and Inside the Tornado is the tornado effect that occurs between those early adopters and the early majority, and how companies can actually position themselves, and I would say entrepreneurs, startups, can position themselves to win in that tornado. And I experienced that in 1993. My brother and I, we launched an ISP, Internet Service Provider. It sounds like a foreign concept, doesn't it? No, of course not. But back then it did. This was the idea of connecting people globally on a network. And before that, it had only really been used by a very small percentage of the population, by university students who are connecting between different universities, those kind of things. And the big event that occurred was that Mosaic came out. Mosaic was the first browser, and you can actually have a visual look of the internet. Before that, it was like Usenet groups and Pine and all the, it's been a while since I can remember all these names. But there have been a lot of different ways you can connect globally, but not through sort of a visual interface like a browser. And Mosaic launched, and obviously we know that rest is history. The company that we had launched was an internet service provider in Toronto, and it became the 7th fastest growing company in Canada. And then eventually, I think it was the 3rd fastest growing company in Canada as well. And that company, we launched probably about 3 or 4 years before the telecoms. We took it public, and then in 2000, we started another company, a web hosting company, a cloud computing company. And that company just scaled very rapidly as well. But what it was struggling in the chasm, and this is what I want to talk a little bit about, is the chasm that occurs between the time these innovators use the technology and early adopters start adopting it and the early majority. There is a period of time called a chasm. This is something that has been termed before, and I know Geoffrey Moore has worked on expanding the definition around the chasm and the technology adoption curve. But there's a lot of things that you can do to survive in a chasm. I call them chasm dwellers. We have a couple of chasm dwellers in our office here. They've been working on a metaverse company, and in that metaverse company, they've been scanning museums. So you'd think, metaverse sort of like, pretty much a tough business to get into right now. There's been a lot of my friends who have those devices and those glasses. They're really professional dust collectors. They're very low usage rates for them. But here's a company that's decided that, well, we're gonna go for it. But they've been struggling to really make revenue until they decided to focus on one particular niche. Well, I'm not going to talk about more details of where they're at right now, but they've had a breakthrough, and that breakthrough is going to be a mainstream technology based on the scanning technology that they've developed over the years and their expertise in that area. So when you do develop one particular technology or service in a tech wave, you can perfect it and be the best in the world at it. I call it the laser beam approach. And when you're the best in the world at it, you can then take that and expand into another niches. Take an example, probably a good example would be Amazon. They just started out with books in a garage, selling books. They became the best at selling books. And most people now don't know Amazon as a bookseller. They know Amazon as they sell everything, pretty much. And so when they early on were able to survive in that one category, they were able to expand dramatically. Now, Michelle, you've been through technology, and I'll talk a little bit more about catching regulatory waves and the Dot Club and some of the other stuff that we've done. And then we'll come up to AI and talk about how to catch an AI wave or how to catch one of those AI waves and launch a business around it. We'll talk a little bit about that and the things you need to do in a tech wave to actually make money and actually, be successful and be the dominant player. So, Michelle, I know you worked at consulting firms. You've seen so much technology. Can you just talk a little bit about your past and some of those technological changes that have occurred in your life and the observations you've had?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound very old here.
at the risk of doing that, I will. Here's the thing that has been difficult for me, Colin, personally. And I know Doctor will appreciate this. I was trying to bring some people on the stage, by the way, sidetrack here, but I'm not getting that option, Mimi, to invite people onto the stage.
Something seemed wrong with Clubhouse today, actually.
Something is
Not working.
Yeah, something's not working. Something's amiss here. And I'm not even able to invite people on the stage. So here's an example of technology, but nonetheless, we love it. So back to Colin's question. So for me, a lot of, my experience with technology is, I know a lot of people think, oh my gosh, like AI or whatever, the internet when that happened, even like dial up when that happened, it was just going to like change the world. These things are still very incremental. And I feel what I've experienced, for the most of us, right, for the vast amount of us, is like these incremental changes is what matters. I spent my life trying to think, oh my gosh, what is that next big idea? I'm putting so much pressure and feeling so much stress on myself. Then when I kind of like relaxed about it and just like took a different approach, a different mindset, because I do believe it is a mindset where just like, how can it just help me, this tech, you know, perform better, make a better product offering, whatever it might be, I tended to get a lot further, Colin. So when you ask me, like from my point of view, from a technology standpoint, I've not been like the person that did a groundbreaking technology, but I actually did, for example, one example, you and I were talking about like accounting. As small businesses, this is like kind of a huge deal. Like we want visibility, not that we actually require and we need visibility into the business and accounting and the bookkeeping. And it used to be so expensive, but yet we're still kind of struggling with this. So in my early days, to come back around to your question, I worked for Arthur Anderson, which, big 8 accounting firm. I don't even know what you would call it now, and I was doing tax software for estates and trusts. Like, oh, it sounds very fancy, very high profile, and it, I guess it was. It's very high end kind of a way to operate software. We came onto a paradigm, and I'm going to use that word paradigm because I think of this like, where are the paradigm shifts? All right. So there is a major paradigm shift right now, for example, in terms of what I want to do, like what I kill myself about, and I'm just feeling so guilty about because I can't do all this analysis on our digital ads or whatever it was. In my tax software days, it was like, oh my God, like I have all these thoughts in my head, but how do I shift from me being the bottleneck? And I look at AI and agents as like, how do we shift from being the bottleneck? And again, I'm going to say, as I just told some of our team, Colin, like, you need to approach this like you're the boss. Like, stop like asking me, what am I supposed to do? Just like you have to approach these things like you're the boss. Okay. It is a paradigm shift. So for me, that's how I've been able to leverage these things best. I've always wanted to think of the next brilliant idea. Unfortunately, I've not been able to do that. But where I see there's massive opportunities for people is that paradigm shift. Like you have the ideas, you are the boss, whatever that means. We're the boss of ourselves, obviously. And how do I shift into that using technology? So I experienced going from mainframes, doing massive tax returns, very complex tax returns, to, oh my gosh, there's this thing that's the internet. Like you have no idea. Like that was such a massive evolution of things. Like I know it's like hard to even explain this. Like from like I'm not shipping CD disc anymore. I'm not going to a tax accountant. I can actually download this stuff and do it on this thing called the internet. Like it's, we're in these kind of evolutions where it actually improves our efficiency. So for me, I would say it has been more about improving my efficiencies and my teams around me efficiencies. And like if you just can like step back and just kind of like think about that and the implications of it, it's pretty huge because I know everyone here, because we hear you on a weekly basis. You've got the ideas. You are the boss. Like, I think, catching the wave here in this literal term that calls very clearly outlined for us is like, how do we capture ourselves and like stop being the bottleneck as entrepreneurs? But I want to hear what you have to say, Colin.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, we're not going to talk about, it's not going to be an AI session today. It's going to be about how to catch a tech wave. But AI is obviously the biggest tech wave I believe we've seen in our lifetime. It will mint more millionaires than any other technological shift in history. It is primarily, the first day it happened was November 30th when ChatGPT 3.5 hit. And that was like a tsunami. But what's interesting is there's a lot of aftershocks. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. In the article that I'm working on for Entrepreneur Magazine, we've got 6 techniques for identifying the wave and how to catch the wave. And then I've got 3 go-to-market strategies, how to win and how to ride that wave. So basically how to ride the wave. All right. So let's kick it off with the first one, Michelle. It is live in the future. This is a concept that I put into the book, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. And it's something that I've done my entire life. And even if you are not an innovator, I think there's still a place for you in this world because this is how you see the future. You obviously can't live in the future, but you can surround yourself with the future. Does that make sense? Like for instance, I've always had the fastest internet possible. Business, I'd pay extra for my house to have the fastest internet. So I knew that streaming was something that was going to hit much before others did because I was starting to experience it myself and I was starting to use that. I had the number 984th Model X ever produced. I still own the car today. I'm proud. I'm actually a laggard now, I guess, by owning the Model X, but I still own that today. I had one of the first HD TVs in Canada. And today in our company, Michelle, like as you know, we surround ourselves with AI. So like Mimi and Kyle and yourself and all the employees, we've got access to ChatGPT, Claude Enterprise, Copilot. We're using OpenClaw on some of the stuff. We got Grok. I mean, it's all about surrounding yourself with AI. And I actually think that you're making a huge mistake by not doing this. And I don't know how many entrepreneurs I've talked. Are you paying for AI? No, I'm using the free version. Look, it's time to surround yourself with AI and embrace the future. And when you do it, you start to think differently. You start to think about, well, okay, I have a problem. I can solve that with AI. And you learn how to solve those things. But if you don't surround yourself with the technology, if you don't have the latest technology, you're behind. But if you do surround yourself with technology, certain types of technology, then you can lead and you can identify where the opportunities are. So number 2 is when new tech hits, there's noise everywhere. And this is interesting because Clubhouse, the app, I know we're having problems today with it, but that's okay. Clubhouse, when NFTs first hit, I first heard about it on Clubhouse. And a lot of people heard about it on Clubhouse and started to invest in it and probably made a lot of money. That's because it was like an early signal. Reddit is good for that as well. You get early signals. And when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, man, oh man, did it blow up. Did the conversation start to blow up? So if you want to understand where the waves are coming, one of the techniques is look for the noise. And so, put yourself in the right environments like Clubhouse or Reddit or maybe it's Instagram, whatever, or TikTok, whatever it is. But you want to really make certain that you're in that. Another technique I thought was interesting is that I've done or used is tracking keywords and domain names. I'm also a domainer. Okay, admit it. I buy domain names, and obviously I'm looking for tech shifts when I buy these names because I want to get in early. I bought about 100 meaningful AI.coms about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And I've actually sold a number of them as well. So it's actually been pretty decent. And of course, these were hand registrations. We're talking $10 registrations that I'm selling for $1,000, right? So you can see right there that just that alone is because I identified something I thought was going to be really big. I started registering a lot of wordai.coms as well. But here, so Cedo has a platform that they track the most searched word, and Agent was on there in February of 2026. So I'm not saying that if you're pretty plugged in, you know that agentic is taking off and agents are taking off and whatnot. But I was just trying to use this as an example how domain names can actually be a leading indicator. I would argue that if you're in an environment like Clubhouse or Reddit and you see things taking off, and then you say, hey, you know what, this could really go somewhere. I'm going to start registering domain names. Domain names are probably a secondary signal, but at least, they're still an early on signal. If you're trying to identify particular opportunities, there will be huge opportunities around agents and agentic. And we've talked a lot about this, how, for instance, lawyers and accountants can use agents to do most of their jobs and automate and use AI to do most of their jobs and help their clients. So a standard litigation might cost $500,000, where today it might cost $50,000. And that changes the economics. How does a lawyer survive in that environment? Well, they survive by embracing it. And you'll be surprised about how many more lawsuits. We're going to see a massive increase in the number of lawsuits because AI is now making it much more accessible to sue, but also to defend as well. And the lawyers that just want to make money, and we had a funny meeting yesterday. I won't mention any names, but we used AI to create a PPM, private placement memorandum for one of our companies. And the lawyer got quite irritated on the phone saying, well, this is not like appropriate and blah, 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 whatever. He didn't quite say that, but you could sense from his tone that he was very frustrated that he wasn't going to make his $20,000 bill on this private placement memorandum. And we asked him, no, we just want you to help us with the corporate documents. And I probably could have used AI to do all of it, but but we're dealing with money and a lot of money, and I'm still relatively early to it. I decided to lean on a lawyer to help me get this financing complete. It's a Reg D financing with the SEC, so I don't want to make mistakes. Obviously, I think AI can do it, but I also think I gotta temper my enthusiasm about using AI all the time. All right, Michelle, I don't know if you want to continue the moderation here. I got points 3, 4,
Yes.
5, and 6, and then we'll jump into how to actually win, how to actually ride the wave versus how to just identify it. But I got 4 more points to go. But let's go around the room a little bit and get a sense of what everyone's thoughts are on catch a tech wave.
Yeah, let's hear a little from the community. We have Doctor up here. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us, even though there was a little bit of issues with the app. But interested in your point of view here. I think a lot of this is your frame of mind. Like, there is opportunity here. We don't all need to be trying to like invent this massive, AI or LLM or trying to like be a unicorn. Like, there's so many ways that we could just like flourish and make money. So, want to hear your thoughts on this, Doctor.
Hi, thanks so much. I think for me, the thing that really hits home is people. So, okay, I'm a scientist and I've worked quite a lot on advancing tech in science and medicine. And I love technology, but I also understand its drawbacks. And the problem is that, we've seen like the tech bubble, the dot-com bubble, right? Tech blows up and then it fails and people lose money. And that's happening a lot with AI right now too. People are thinking there's an AI bubble coming. A lot of companies invested a lot of money in AI and did not get that ROI at all. And so I think it's important to recognize that that the technology can be real and useful, but the bubble can also be real and they can be real simultaneously. I think that's a really important thing that's not being looked at all. and that it's important to not just look at the capability of something, which we see with AI, there's this raw capability, but what is the ecosystem that supports it, that allows it to succeed and to be, of course, useful? And how are we defining useful? There's a big argument and a huge pushback right now because our tech seems to have gotten ahead of us, and people like lawyers are starting to feel like, well, this is taking over and I will be useless. And what's more important, and I think what's really being overlooked and what's being articulated is the benefits of each, the benefit, the beauty, the strength, the power of being human, and also the benefit, the strength, and the beauty and the power of whatever the technology is, let's say AI. Specifically in the legal world, Colin, you know that there was this case that blew up last year, I think it was, where this lawyer just used AI to, go to court, and all the stuff the AI put forth were false cases. It was hallucinating. So I use AI for legal stuff a lot, but I also know, because I see it hallucinating in so many other things, it will, as I said in the last episode, it can give false references. It'll give you a reference. You're like, well, if it gives me a reference, it's not hallucinating. The reference is a hallucination. So I think it's really important to understand what is tech led and what is problem led, and the gaps between that, and address that, not just as a business, but also as a consumer.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from here as well. Obviously hallucination has been an issue, but I've also heard it as an excuse. I'm going to push back on you a little bit here. Not on this, just for fun, okay? Doctors, don't get pushy me.
No, I love that. No.
Yeah,
I hate when people say pushback. It's a conversation. We gotta
exactly. So I heard a lot about, we can't use these documents because it's hallucinating. And in my meeting yesterday with this lawyer, he's like, well, you need a full blown PPM that has like an executive summary and risk factors. And of course, my PPM had all of that. By the way, I almost pre-wrote the PPM in 2012 for .club. And in that particular case, it cost me $17,500 to get it converted to, through the lawyer before I could present it to investors. Not everybody's got $17,500, right? And sometimes we got to rely on these technologies to help us achieve what would never have been able to achieve without the technology. And I will say that the hallucinations have come down a lot. They've really improved a lot. And sometimes I have Claude check my work from OpenAI as well. So I'll have Claude look at it and say, "Oh, that makes sense," or "This didn't make sense," or And when it comes to sources, I'm very particular that I actually click on the sources. So when I quoted the CETO source, this is going to be in the article for Entrepreneur Magazine, I actually used AI to identify where the source came from on the word agent being number 4 in February as the most keyword, searched on that particular platform. And then I quote that source and I link the source in the article as well. So I'm with you on that. And I think you can agree that it's definitely improved a lot. And what we can do today with AI is so much more than what we could do 2 or 3 years ago, even. Like, it's just incredible. It's 100 times greater. And
it's jumping every day, Colin. Every single day. Every single day, there's a new tool that makes people that much more better at the shit that AI sucked at yesterday. Never have you seen a world where someone dropped a piece of code and it's that much better a week later. Literally, this is the best time to be living for people, because if you think about it, nothing made billionaires like software. Just keep that in mind.
And you're a true entrepreneur. I can sense that. Like I got, and I know you're jumping out of queue, Rachel. We're going to jump right to you next. Sorry, just give us a moment here. But I love it. I love it. I love where you're going with this. And I can sense you're a true entrepreneur who is really like, this is the best time to be alive. And it is true for entrepreneurs. It may not be true if your business, or if all you do is ghostwriting, for instance, or a technical writer.
You're in trouble, Colin.
Or a lawyer, right? Or even an accountant potentially down the road here. Although they're like, I wouldn't say it, but they always seem to survive, the lawyers, when it comes to whatever.
Lawyers somehow.
Lawyers and tax accountants, somehow. Right? They always seem to survive.
Think about this, Colin. Just here, I'll do this before, because I didn't mean to cut the line. Just something for everybody to think about, right? The only reason people ain't taking ChatGPT in the courthouse is because of the law. If it wasn't for the law, it would be a better paralegal. The facts are in. The numbers are there. If you need someone to remember shit, There's no better person to do it than Gemini and right now. So as long as the laws are there to protect people's jobs, they're fine. The moment lobbyists and the Valley and Wall Street get down the main street and say, look, quit with all of this, AI can't come with people shit. The moment they, with the one stroke of a pen, literally, it's going to be all over the news. The moment they write a bill that says you cannot deter people from bringing AI tools into their workplace, on my mama, half of that firm is losing their job that day.
I think we're there. I think we're getting there now. I think we're getting close. All right. You've been patient, Rachel. Thank you very much for that. And what are your thoughts on, catching a wave? If anyone has a story about how they've identified a technology in the past and sort of rode that wave, it doesn't have to be AI, by the way. It can be about GLP-1s. We were talking about that today at lunch, Michelle and I, and all the industries that are forming around GLP-1s and restaurants, how they're adapting their menus for high protein, et cetera. So if you have a story about how you've caught a wave, you've succeeded with it in the past, or if you're looking at trying to catch a wave, we'd love to hear from you. Just raise your hand and come on stage. Rachel, you're up.
Hi, Colin. Hi, Michelle. How are you guys? Actually, I'm in the middle of something. I'll just circle back real quick, but I would love for Go and everyone to continue.
All right, so let's go to Ujwal. We see you here on the stage. Love to hear your thoughts on the subject, or we will go to the next person.
Go.
All right. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Let's go.
Your thoughts originally and before you jumped in on the other comments.
So here's the thing, right? I'm coding right now, so I'm just jumping room to room, and any room that they not talking against tech forward, I just hang out. So I don't remember what the conversation is about. I just jumped in when I heard something that was interesting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, awesome. All right, then we'll jump right over to Steve then. Steve, you're up.
Hi, yeah. So catching the tech wave. Okay. So I want to talk about the kind of the recent the agent wave. So I actually have been in the AI field for quite a while, and then of course we all know the the large language models, but the cost of building large language models is prohibitive. It's basically $1 billion to get an entry ticket for a company to work in this area. So, I can't catch that wave.
Not for long, Steve.
And then, but the good news is that when agent came, almost anyone actually can do it. You have a subscription, either a month plan or API plan from big companies. And then you can work on this agent stuff, like Cloud Code is an agent, right? And there are many, especially, many of the specific ones. And the Cloud Code is the most famous one for coding, like coding agent. So that's any individual can do it. So I basically started about 3 months ago. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just going to stop here.
Let me add something to the room that everyone should know. Okay. There's a GitHub project out there called Tiny LLM. If you are tech savvy enough and you know how to code, that is the place you start your own custom LLM model, not trained on anybody else's data, not anything, right? Why do I mention this repo? Because oftentimes people cite this 2021 truth. That's not a 2026 truth. It used to cost you $1 billion to go train a model. Today, well, shit, I got like 4 of them over here training right now for me, and I don't have a bunch of money. And also, it's also important to note, DeepSeek is the textbook example. While Google was spending billions to get Gemini to spit out an answer to beat the SWE benchmark. That's just what they measure. This is what they show to their shareholders. This is what they talk to Wall Street about. SWE benchmark. DeepSeek smashed that benchmark at a fraction of the cost. And we're talking about a big fraction, the equivalent of like $6 million, $5.6 million to be exact. R1 Reasoning, they did it with $5.6 million. Why is that important? They first model, they got to market with $294,000. Today in 2026, I don't see how someone with $25,000 and actually some information or some data that is not already a part of someone else's model or some sort of sophisticated tool cost wouldn't be able to drop a model that will break the internet, and probably he have investors beating his dough down that day, because the industry today is very different than what it used to be. Back then, you needed money, connections, and smart people. Today, you need an idea and a plan to get from A to Z. And however you get from A to Z, that's truly your last barrier to being an entrepreneur, because there are tools out there all over the internet that'll help you find all the relevant information you need to know. To do open heart surgery, bro, this information, the scientific research papers is online. If you really want to be a heart surgeon and you're able to gather all of the information there is to know out there, and you're able to find someone who's willing to let you practice on their heart, I do not see how
Seriously,
you
you think
not
somebody's going to let you practice on their heart?
of course, they're probably not going to let
Come
you
on.
do it, man. That's obviously not the realistic. What I'm
Well, that's the
saying
whole
is,
thing. It's being realistic. Are we building better tech, or are we building a better life, a better society? And people are now
it is
choosing
a
a
better
better life.
society. I'll tell you how. Because somebody didn't have access to your research papers before, Dr. Ma'am. Someone didn't. Now someone can, because your research papers, when they get posted, the professional doctors, they're all posted on the same place, harvard.com. All of the important research papers get posted there. That website right now, they had to bring in new funding because the servers couldn't handle the demand of people hitting, scraping the shit out of websites, because everybody know, well, shit, the smartest, most crucial, sacred information across the world will be on one or two websites. If you point your LLM there, how can anybody have superior information to you if the smartest people in the world posting their papers, post them on 2 or 3 places? You see what I'm saying? Like, if we get to a
We
point
don't
where
post
the
papers,
whole world
we publish
understands,
papers. Oh,
huh?
goodness. We don't post papers, we publish papers.
Same difference. I didn't mean,
Publications
you
are
don't have to
open.
be pedantic. You know what I mean? The information's out. It's not always in universities anymore. It's on
Yeah, but
papers
that
that are
information
online.
has always been available. I am a scientist, so I know whereof I speak.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is everyone didn't know how easily accessible those papers can be. You see what I'm saying? At first, everybody thought Wikipedia, Google. Now they run to AI, and if they're smart, they'll know, hey, let's go get some more accredited sources. Let's not lean on Google and Wiki. Let's go to the sources. The last doctor.
bioarchive is not peer reviewed, and it is not. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to disagree with a lot of what you're saying, but okay.
Go ahead.
No, that's good. I mean, like that's what we're having. We're having a conversation here, right? And it's all about that. And I think there's some good points though made by Stephen Go that, you know, that you can do stuff today that you couldn't do 5 years ago. Like there's no way I could build an app 5 years ago. And I took that on as a challenge. It took me 2 hours, by the way, to do it using Claude Code and Xcode, and had no idea how to make Xcode work. So I kept taking screenshots and going back to Claude. Okay, it's not working. What do I do now? And it would tell me, and I finally got the app built. It was pretty cool. Never built my app in my life. I've never done heart surgery in my life, but I don't intend to. But it does help you solve problems that you never imagined you could do before. Like for instance, if I wanted to write a movie script and I have an idea for it, I can do that now because it'll set up the right formatting for me. It'll do that kind of stuff. And it's really, we're only limited to our imagination. That's it.
And that's the point I was trying to get. I was trying to argue to you, doctor, is that the reality is, yeah, the only reason people aren't using LLMs and people's papers to go perform open heart surgery is because it's illegal. Soon as it's not illegal, someone's going to try to do it.
So let me ask you a question. All right, I'm totally agreeing with everything you say for a
I think you
moment.
went too far on the open heart
Could
surgery
you let
example.
me
No,
do
I like to go
surgery
that
on
far
you?
because that's the
Come on.
severity of the situation. Someone's gonna try it.
My
Not me,
question
but
for
someone
you
will.
specifically is, if you're going to put your money where your mouth is, if I went and asked an AI how to do open heart surgery, would you let me do it on you?
No, not me, because I
Okay.
know no, but the reason why I wouldn't is not because it came from AI. It's because I know that AI is still lying.
That's
The
what I'm
moment
trying to
I
say. Okay, because what I'm hearing are it's both extremes. And can we actually use our God-given brains, which are incredible machines, which AI is trying to duplicate and mimic? and actually use critical thinking to understand. I'm not saying I'm against AI. I pay for both Claude and ChatGPT. And like you, Colin, I use them up against each other. Not against, but to check each other. Plus, I use my own brain. The point is not, is it great to be able to make money right now? Sure, who doesn't want to make money? The point is, how are we doing it? What are the limitations? And how does it best serve so it can be tractable, usable, and help us flourish? And then the tech itself can flourish. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you. I don't think we should be like, because like right now we're throwing the breadth of human knowledge and purse at this problem. Everybody's invested in AI. There's nowhere in the world where if tomorrow somebody make a tweet and say, "Hey, look, this AI shit is stupid," you know what I mean? And someone can prove with math why a bunch of people are gonna lose a bunch of money, it'll take the economy because everybody's so deeply invested.
And so
What I'm
many
saying
companies
is
that
the
deeply
youth,
invested have lost so much money. That's just a fact.
right? But you have winners too, though. Like Claude.
Absolutely.
Claude
I
is an example
agree.
of a winner. And the reason they're winning is because, listen to me here, they're doing something that nobody else is doing. And that's tool calls. Claude's IP, Claude's value is in their tool calls. It's not in their model. That's why they sell it at such a premium, because they know that the model don't fucking matter. That's yesterday's game that Google kind of poured the Kool-Aid for. They made everybody think it was about the model. Claude showed it wasn't about the model. DeepSeek showed that it wasn't even about the money you threw at the problem for the model. Now everybody's making models, which kind of makes the guys who are overvalued because of the money they put into their models. You know what I'm saying? That this is what's happening to the industry in real time. Now, at the same time, in the real world, everybody who ain't got shit to do with tech is using these tools. It's a matter of time before, because a guy just made a brilliant analogy in the other room. He said it's like the genie, right? You can wish for whatever, right? But if you aren't thorough, then you're gonna get anything back, some more or less of what you did or didn't want. So today, like you said, open heart surgery, brain surgery, those type of things are still the type of thing that people are not willing to let people try to do
Okay,
for them
so
if
I'm
they
in the
know they,
operating room doing brain surgery. Hello. And
huh?
we've had, yes, deep brain stimulation, neurosurgeries. I got papers out there on it, la, la, la. The fact of the matter is there was no AI then. And we had robots. So tech has been, and Colin started this whole thing. This isn't about AI, it's about tech. Tech has been and will continue to be very, very important for us. You know, what was a big change in human civilization when we started to make tools? At that time, that was high tech. So yes, tools, tech, that changes human civilization. We just have to figure out how best to do it and go forward, because there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of loss, and you can't say 4 big companies won and screw all the other small businesses that are actually supporting the economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
But that's not. But
Okay. We're
you a
gonna move
brain
on.
surgeon would know that's not how the world.
We're gonna move on. Go. We're gonna move on. Aileen, you've been very patient. I love your little animations going over there on the icon. And you're up next.
Hey, Colin, thanks so much. So I'm going to take it back to the how to catch the next tech wave combo. And there's a couple thoughts that are coming to mind. One of them is AI adjacent, if you will, and it relates to the fixers. I've mentioned this in conversations here in this room before. There's specifically for enterprise technology, there are a lot of solutions that are being pitched right now as like the quick fixes to, insert X many problems, and we're going to solve all of that for you with this, AI powered tool. And the thing is, some of these tools are going to fall flat. And it's going to take time for teams to raise their hand and to say this isn't actually delivering the results. So there's going to be an opportunity from my perspective for fixers, for people who truly know how to go in, like really intentionally design solutions from an end-to-end holistic perspective and keeping the human experience at the forefront, because that's often missed in some of the technology that's pitched. So that's one. And then the second, it is for me specifically, I design virtual spaces, and this is not a background. A lot of times people think it's just like a background on one of the standard web conferencing tools. It is not. It is actually like virtual spaces that you walk into. And I think there's a lot of opportunity from a tech perspective to humanize the virtual experience. We see this on Clubhouse. Clubhouse was super timely with launching this app, right? During the pandemic, a lot of people were burnt out from being on camera when they were virtual. So they're like, hey, let's do audio only. Now, a couple years later, people are going through a new round of being, so on virtual settings, and this expectation of, you have to have your hair done or you have to show up in some certain way. And this still gives us that platform to just show up with the power of our voice. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity coming up for more virtual experiences for me in that virtual design space, but for other tech companies that are going to start playing around with how can we push this a little bit further? How can we remove the standard experience that everyone's having? And keep in mind, well, not everyone has children, but for those that have kids, some of your kids went to classrooms in, Zoom meetings and in Google Meets meetings and whatever other tools were, pitched to schools during the pandemic. So how are they going to associate that experience and deassociate it when they go into the workplace? So that's what I'm looking out for, is those cool people who are like, hey, I want to rethink the virtual experience, like Clubhouse, virtual spaces, things like that. And I'm excited for that. Passing the mic back over to the mods. Thanks for having me.
Hey, well, thank you for that. I wanted to really try, and we'll get to you in a minute, AJ. Thank you for being patient. I wanted to try to talk a little bit about the other 4 ways you can identify a tech wave. And this isn't stuff that I'm just making up or went to AI to do, by the way. This is something that I've lived for 30 years, and Michelle's lived for 30 years. And I'm certain a number of people here on the stage have lived through a lot of these shifts in techs and tech changes, and they've identified ways to make money from it. I think AI is very exciting because anyone can do anything now with the right idea and the right gumption. You just have to do it. You just have to go there and make it happen. And then use AI to help you, guide you through the process of launching your service or product. So it's really an exciting time. I truly believe it's the most exciting time in my life. And there's been a lot of exciting times. But the one difference between the noise, so I talked about earlier on that, if you remember correct, earlier on I talked about live in the future. So we're going to want to identify these trends early on, buy as much AI as possible. Let's surround ourselves with every AI. Sometimes you do stupid things. You surround yourself with stupid technology and you realize this is stupid. And then you know right away not to invest in it. And then obviously, where's the noise coming from, whether it's Reddit or Clubhouse or whatever it is. But ultimately, it has to solve a real problem or create a massive opportunity. If the technology doesn't do that, then you're going down the wrong path. Okay, I'm going to make a couple of maybe controversial statements. I've been saying that about the metaverse for many, many years. I did say that about the Dick Tracy watch, but Apple seemed to break that one, right? Pretty clearly. I'm actually going to say that about robots. I think robots, this idea, and I've had a lot of friends who are buying these robots and, putting down deposits. I'm like, you guys are crazy. This is not going to work. It's not. What works very, very well in our office in my home is ironically, a Chinese robot called Roborock, and it works very well. It's a single purpose. We're going to see that for lawn cutting. We're going to see robots in all those types of measurement, the other types of areas, but we're going to see a chasm around humanoid robots. I don't know what the obsession is with humanoid robots, but it's got to solve a real problem or create a massive opportunity. We saw that with AI. Again, I don't want this to be an AI thing, but we saw that with AI. We saw that with the internet itself. We saw that with broadband. Broadband brought in a lot of changes in the world. It brought in videos and
It brought in a lot of broad changes. Colin.
a lot of broad changes. Yes, it did. And we had Zoom, obviously, and many companies, obviously, and video conferencing and many different things that were made possible because of broadband, including this app today. Airbnb, the sharing economy, it unlocked millions and millions of homes that were unused. I can go on and on about so many different technical shifts.
What a time to be alive. There's an app for everything, Colin. Literally.
Hey, my friend, there's an AI for everything, right?
What they say when they put that chat bot in this chat section here. Because we already got a chat section and they already got customers. So it's kind of obvious that if they start to lose this race, whatever race Clubhouse is still running, I'm pretty sure it'll be a chat bot right here. I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
So one of the big changes that I'm saying stuff that may be upset a few people here, but one of the big tech shifts or innovations that occurred that I thought would stall in a chasm, and I actually wrote about it in the book. I wrote about the metaverse stalling. I wrote about the NFTs as well. NFTs, I do think there might be a place for NFTs down the road, but right now it's struggling. They're struggling to survive. They're struggling in their own chasm. And they're technologies don't always reach the early majority. A large percentage of them fail. So we're going to want to pick and choose the ones that we think that we can get behind. And I just can't get behind NFTs. I've never been able to do that. And that's something that maybe one day will. And maybe it will become a thing. But for now, I'm seeing it struggle and very low adoption, very low usage rates. The Bored Ape, obviously led a lot of NFT stuff going out
Burned a
there.
lot of
And
capital is what Bored Apes did.
$500,000 a Bored Ape for a digital cartoon picture. But obviously we've seen those prices collapse as well. So you got to be careful when you're investing in a tech wave, whether it's buying a domain name and having to pay domain name fees, or whether you're buying stock, or whether, you got to sort of pick and choose your tech waves that you want to back. And, obviously we're seeing AI is just sort of dominating a lot of these things as well, but there are a number of tech waves that you might choose to back and they just don't pan out. So does it solve a real problem? Number 4 is, how does it change your own behavior? But I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. I want to give AJ a chance to talk about this topic.
Mhm. Hey guys, yeah, great room and great to see so many people who I don't know. So that's how I know I'm in a good room and meeting some new people. But yeah, just to touch on the title, I guess I'm gonna be maybe the Grinch of the room a little bit as well, and just kind of remind people to take care with the jumping on the back of anything really. I'm a business person that, and we're all probably business people or small business owners in the room, and we probably get emails every day from different products and services and companies wanting you to use their services within what you're doing, etc. And I don't go with anybody who I don't know. I don't work with people who don't have things like websites. I do a quite scrutinized vetting when I'm looking into partnering or working with anybody. And yeah, I just remind people just to go with caution and go by recommendations for things. If you're going to be invested in anything, not just tech, but anything, but obviously the subject's on tech. So if you're going to go into, investing in tech and blah, blah, just just speak to your network, speak to people who are doing this day in, day out, speak to professionals. You're only a few degrees away from the top gurus who know a lot more than you about something. So just find those people and stay out of your own head. That's what I like to say to people. I don't say it to my team or my staff. I think they're quite capable. But my interns, I always it's a little motto I say stay out of your own head a lot of the time, because obviously, every morning you wake up, you think you've got the next best thing, but we have a world around us that can help you and guide you towards what actually is the next best thing based on experience and based on watching the market, etc., etc. So just be careful with that. I know we like to use a lot of examples of people who have really excelled in investing in tech, etc., etc. But there are people out there who have money to kind of, not, I won't say the word burn, but lack of being able to find another word, I'm going to say burn. They can actually afford to burn if things don't work out. So those people are sometimes just kind of like, putting a number of chips on a number of different numbers on the roulette table, and hopefully just one thing happens. But that's the only thing they talk about. They don't talk about the other 9 or 10 numbers that didn't come in. They talk
Yeah.
about the one number that came in, and then we jump on the bandwagon of, oh, they done it because they their number came in, so to speak. So I'm just talking about the cautions here. So I thought I'd just add that in. But great conversation and happy to see some familiar faces.
Well, thank you for coming back, and really appreciate you to providing that, because I think it leads really into my number 4, which was technology changes your own behavior. And what do I mean by that? If you don't get it, and okay, now this is a personal thing, okay? If I don't get it, I don't lean into it, okay? If I get it, I lean into it. When I was in college, we were using the internet, we're having fun with it, we're playing with it. And then all of a sudden, Mosaic comes out, and we're like, holy shit, I get this. This is going to be huge. And we really leaned into it and did 2 publicly traded companies based on that innovation, the internet and hosting. We did ISP and a hosting company. And then several other internet companies following that. my point is if you're, let me give you another example. And this is going to be maybe a little bit off there. I don't know. And this actually leads into number 5, which is seeing second order opportunities. But, we would travel around the world and hated hotel rooms, but loved the Airbnb experiences, but couldn't stand Airbnbs because they just weren't really done well, in my opinion, right? Like they weren't done as clean as hotel rooms, et cetera. Airbnb became what's part of the sharing economy and a huge paradigm shift. And there's an island in Florida called North Captiva. And about 5-6 years ago, I would say about 10% of the homes were Airbnbs. And the property values were very, very low. We came in, we bought 10 properties, and we made them all luxury Airbnbs. We have 5 development lots and 5 actual live properties right now on North Captiva. And we made them all luxury Airbnbs. We started marketing on Airbnb, and the numbers started coming in really strong. Today, 75% of homes on that island are Airbnbs, and the prices have gone up considerably because the market's obviously gone up. But more. I think this island's gone up more than the market in Florida because all of a sudden it's becoming, they've embraced this new change, this new sharing economy. Now, Airbnb obviously came out many, many years ago, and this is an opportunity. Sometimes you see other ways of, this is happening, Airbnb's thing. What if I plug this into this and make it happen? Let me give you another example, because we don't just make this shit up. We're live here. We're rolling live here. We run an incubator of 20 companies here, maybe more. I don't know. There's a lot of people in this building right now, and it's shared offices. Some I have investments in, some I don't. But another one is Elon Musk's Starlink, right? That's come out, and you can now access internet everywhere around the world. So 2 years ago, I was on a cruise ship, a Royal Caribbean in the North Atlantic, doing a Zoom and a podcast. I'm like, shit, this is really good. This is going to be big. And then I decided to launch a community on Facebook called Live at Sea and a website called liveatsea.com. It's now become the largest community on Facebook for people living on residential cruise ships. I actually did buy a cruise condo as well, which we're going to get in 18 months from now. And there's $250 million of this one particular ship that's going to trade. And now I'm positioning Live at Sea and the Facebook group and liveatsea.com. And I'm going to launch cruisecondos.com to be the realtor and the realtor.com and the Airbnb of the sea. And this is all just happening because of Elon Musk's internet everywhere, high-speed internet everywhere, where people are starting to change the way they think about where they need to live. And this is going to be the beginning of something brand new and huge paradigm shift that Michelle talked about that could change the world. This isn't AI. Airbnb, the sharing economy is not AI. CRISPR is not AI. There's a lot of technological shifts that are out there that you can make money from. So don't always just think it's about AI. Don't get me wrong, you got to use AI to help you every step of the way. But there are a lot of technical shifts. And number 6, and we're not going to go into how to ride the wave. We're going to do that next week or another show if we have a speaker next week coming in, but because we don't have enough time today. But number 6 was watch for aftershocks. Truly transformative waves like the internet, broadband, AI have one thing in common. It's aftershocks. And I want you to think about this for a second. Go off the stage now. But, Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook in 2004, yet Bezos started Amazon in 96, okay? Almost 10 years earlier. So the reality is the internet came out and there were still huge opportunities even 10 years later. ChatGPT launched in November 30th of 2022. And that was the tsunami. And now we're starting to see other AI waves emerge, like video creation, music generation, AI agents. We talked about AI agents and how that is now transformative. And there's whole business opportunities around that. So those are the 6 things to think about. Just really, really quickly, live in the future. When a new tech hits, there's noise everywhere. And you want to be in the right spot at the right time to listen, like Clubhouse, like shows like this. So it solves a problem, a real problem, or creates a massive opportunity. And that is key because a lot of tech opportunities or tech shifts die in a chasm. The technology changes your own behavior and you start seeing second order opportunities and you watch for aftershocks. If you do that, you're going to now be plugged in. You're going to be very much plugged into what's the next opportunity that I can ride and make a successful startup from. I've lived this life my entire life. I've lived it. I continue to live it. I live the philosophy behind it. Geoffrey Moore is, I've talked to him many times. I interviewed him on this show. He's obviously been one of my inspirations for how I've run my businesses in the last 25, 30 years. He wrote the book, Crossing the Chasm. And if you haven't already done so, pick up the book, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, because we break this whole concept down into detail. And it's been a number one seller, 15 categories on Amazon. It looks like it may go number one this month too, because we were selected by a company to be featured in a very large distribution to their members, 400,000 members. Every time, this is the third time we've been listed, so it looks like it's going to go number one again. In any case, we've also won 40 global awards, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. But if you haven't already done so, sign up to the newsletter. It's at the top of the screen here. Mimi works very, very hard on startup.club. This show will become a podcast and it will be going to YouTube. You can listen to it on YouTube podcast. Please give us a like if you've been listening to it on podcast. I know it's relatively new still on podcast, but because we're primarily a clubhouse show, a live show, we're a community that comes together and tries to share ideas. Sometimes we debate like we did today, and sometimes we argue, but we pretty much come up with some interesting ideas as a community. And we're able to now use AI to take the transcripts and turn them into articles, which get the front page of Google on Startup Club because it's got a great SEO rating. And that's it. So, but next Friday, we have the newsletter coming out and it's going to be a killer. It's a masterclass. We do one newsletter a month, one a month. And it's like the longest newsletter you'll ever see probably in your life, each newsletter. But it's intense, it's real, it's masterclass on one topic after another to help you launch your business or get your startup off the ground. And we're coming out next month with that. But you can't get it unless you go to startup.club and sign up to the email list. We also have a number of great guest speakers coming on. And if you want to hear those speakers and want to know about them, you're not going to know about them on this app. This app has no way for us to communicate with you. I did notice most people in this room are not even a member of Startup Club. You can just click on the logo above and just join the club. It's probably a better idea to join it, but they still have not made connecting with members very easy on this app. Thank you very much. Any last words, Michelle, before we close it out? Or Michelle, sounds like she's hard to go jump to a meeting already. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next Friday, 2:00 Eastern.